Hey everyone, and welcome to the final episode of I Saw the TV show, Dread Central's Pride Month three-part video series inspired by Jane Shoenbrun's queer horror fantasia I Saw the TV Glow from Studio A24.
In the film, a teenage boy named Owen is just trying to make it through life in the suburbs when his classmate introduces him to a late-night mysterious TV show, The Pink Opaque, a vision of a supernatural world beneath their own. In the pale glow of the television, Owen's view of reality begins to crack.
So, over 3 full weeks, the three of us are teaming up to discuss our own versions of The Pink Opaque, the life-altering teen genre TV shows that we were obsessed with as queer kids in the 90s and the 2000s, which was a time where otherness was even more isolating and dangerous than it is today.
So each week, one of us has shared our personal relationships with a horror TV series that changed our young queer lives, and unpacking in the series how escapism, monstrous allegories, and social isolation has shaped us all creatively. And each episode of this series of I Saw the TV show has been accompanied by a personal essay published on the website. There are 2 previous ones linked below, and mine will also be below as well. But before we jump into our final episode, let's just introduce ourselves very briefly. First up, I am Mary Beth McAndrews, Editor-in-Cheif of Dread Central and co-host of the podcast Scarred for Life.
I am Josh Korngut. I am the managing editor of Dread Central, and I also have a podcast here called Development Hell, where I tackle unmade horror movies.
And I am Chad Collins, and I am a staff writer here at Dread Central.
Ooh. So this week, I'm talking about my show. That was my Pink Opaque. And I was struggling to find a show at first because I didn't watch Buffy the Vampire Slayer, and TV was like such a thing I watched with my parents, and we watched a lot of TV together, but like none of it I had ever associated with my queerness or anything until I really landed on one, Courage the Cowardly Dog, which is an animated TV show from 1999 that was originally aired on Cartoon Network, which was like my favorite thing of all time as a kid. And Courage the Cowardly Dog was essentially a horror kid show where a young dog named Courage lived with his Eustace and Miriam in the town of nowhere, and they lived in the middle of nowhere, and there were monsters that came around all the time and threatened their life in nowhere. There's lots of fan theories about what it actually stands for, but to my young mind, it was liminal space horror with a dog and lots of monsters, which was really checked off all the boxes for me. I was already into horror as a kid, but this was a way I could watch horror like all the time because it was a cartoon. And I also was my first time I ever realized that animation could be scary and it could be used like in this way. And so I really identified as Courage because Courage was scared of everything, but even when he was scared of everything, he was able to kind of save the day. And that was really inspiring to me as a kid who had so much anxiety. And I found courage actually, and I hadn't really thought about this until getting ready for this. I found courage when my mom had just moved in with my stepdad. They had just met and we were moving into a new apartment. And Courage was like the show I watched while I was trying to kind of process, like, my parents got divorced. I have a new brother. I have a new stepdad. We're moving into an apartment, into a new house, to a new school where I don't know anybody. And there was just like so much going on in my head. I was already kind of a weird kid. I loved reading spooky stuff. I loved it so much. So Courage was just like the perfect show for me. My brother loved Ed, Ed, and Eddie. I also like the Powerpuff Girls and Dexter's Lab, but Courage was really the show that like spoke to my young, scary heart. And I didn't realize it had much to do with my queerness until I really thought about the episode I brought today, which is probably, it's not scary. It's probably one of the sadder episodes of Courage, but it's one of my favorites because I think it taught me a lot about empathy for the other, which is something I think a lot of us have learned through the genre. Because the episode I chose is called The Hunchback of Nowhere, which is from the first season of Courage, where a hunchback, like it's obviously inspired by the Hunchback of Notre Dame. A hunchback appears at their house in the middle of nowhere and he asks for help. He said, my car broke down. I need help. And Eustace, the old man, says, get away from me. You're scary looking. I don't like you. Because he is a short man. He's got a hunchback and a scar. And he's like, ugly by what societal standards would say. And Eustace, who is the scary old man, was like, no, we're not helping you. You look different and we're not going to help. So he hides in the barn. And then what Courage discovers is just because this man looks different, it doesn't mean that he's scary. And he teaches them how to play bells. And there's this like really heartwarming moment where they start teaching each other how to, like, he starts teaching him how to play bells, and they go out in the rain and ring bells together on the roof of the barn because he's showing Courage kindness, and Courage hasn't really experienced that kind of kindness from Eustace. I'm sorry, I'm getting teary-eyed. Like, this is like really embarrassing.
No, it's beautiful.
But it's just like this beautiful episode about like, even if you look like a monster, you're not always a monster. And like, you can show love and empathy. And at the end, Eustace is trying to like hurt the guy. And the guy says, I'll show you what real monsters look like, and puts on a mask of Eustace and knocks him off the roof. And it's this beautiful like story of like, you can become a monster if you want, but you don't have to. And I think that is something that has always stuck with me for a long time, especially as I began understanding my queerness and like thinking it's something scary, but then realizing it can be something that can build community and teach me how to be a person and be empathetic. And this show that has so many iconic episodes, like everyone knows the Ramses episode where the guy is standing out and goes, just like, I'm going to curse you, and it's the Ramses, and it's funny and scary and campy, which is everything Courage is. But this episode, The Hunchback of Nowhere, is just like really important to me in terms of showing what horror, like how different horror can be and what it can teach you and what a kids animated show can teach you.
Mhm.
Even though it seems silly on the surface, it really just like hits. And I got emotional talking about it because again, like I grew up, I as a girl who liked horror, it freaked people out. Like girls aren't necessarily supposed to like that kind of stuff. I should watch the Powerpuff Girls instead. And, I always felt like I had to fit into a box gender wise and sexuality wise for a long time. And I'm really proud of myself and of all of us for, having support groups and having enough courage to come out.
Uh,
And it's so scary to come out. And if you haven't come out, that's not a bad thing. It's a scary thing to do. And like Courage kind of gave me the courage to embrace that, even though I didn't know I was queer when I was watching this. Like but it felt so important to me in so many different ways that I couldn't articulate. And it's like my favorite episode, and I love watching it every time. And it just always makes me feel like no matter how scary someone thinks you are, you're not actually scary. So don't let anyone make you feel scary. So
oh,
yeah.
oh my God, thank you for
Yeah.
sharing that. That was
Sorry,
so
like weirdly emotional
beautiful.
by accident.
No, it makes sense.
About Courage, the cowardly dog.
Hey, even his name being Courage at this point is like beautiful, right?
Yeah,
And when you were talking about having the courage to come out, it's just like, it's takes a lot of bravery to be queer.
it
You
does
don't
take a lot of
like it's no
bravery to be
choice,
queer.
you know?
Yeah, and it's so cool to hear from the two of you about like how these shows have helped like shape you and like what parts of it have, because I think we all have that, and it's so cool to see how media has been so important to all of us, because especially when we were growing up, there wasn't a lot of representation, and we found it where we
It was
could. And I think,
nothing.
yeah.
There was like Queer as Folk, and I had to like turn down the intro music so no one knew.
And like to me, Courage was gay, and there's no. He's a
Okay,
dog.
I have
He
a
has.
question about that. Obviously, he's male coded, but was he sort of genderless? Like, was there like,
Yeah, like there wasn't really gender to him, really. The whole
yeah,
thing was just him being scared and trying to save his people. And like, yeah, but like I think because, and this is terrible, like because he was so afraid and so like not that traditional masculine, I always thought, oh, he must be different because he isn't like a guy always so assured. And again, he's a dog, but like we all
did he
put weird
talk?
shit. He did.
Yeah,
He a lot of the time was like, "Hoo, hoo, hoo, hoo,
I
hoo,"
get
but
it.
he'd say
I get
things
it.
like the things I do for love. Like that was one of his lines. And
So
he
old
sometimes
school.
would laugh and go and have like a big tooth with a hole in it.
It almost
Um,
gives me Barbera energy.
oh yeah. it definitely has like those vibes and like that era. But
Is it that company?
it's not Hanna-Barbera.
Okay.
But it's like it's Cartoon Network, like
It's
that kind
Cartoon
of
Network.
era. Um,
It's
and
like,
when I was
oh,
able to find it on, I found Courage on DVD in a Walmart bin with like a combination of other Nick shows. And I almost cried when I saw that when I found it. I was like, I would never find Courage. And now I have them on DVD. So like everyone else, it felt like very special to find that and
I
have
didn't
that.
realize it. The first season was the 90s. It was
Yep.
99.
Yep. And that's when I found it because 99 was like the year that we moved and that like all this crazy shit in my life as a kid. So like I found it at the right time for me.
Wow. The year that Sleepy Hollow came out is a very important year.
Very important year. 1999 was a very important year for a lot of reasons.
Oh
But
my God.
yeah, and I think just to tie it all together, like I definitely was a kid who sunk into imagination as a defense mechanism. Like I thought I was a
Mm,
werewolf and I would bark at people at school and like eat lunch meat like I was a dog.
I
Like I
love
was a
it.
weird fucking kid. I scared people. Like I just wanted so desperately to not be in my reality, which sounds so sad, but like I know
Yeah.
a lot of us can deal with that. Like it can like commiserate with that of like I want to live in a more fantastical reality where there are monsters because that explains a lot more. And so like I wanted to live in
Love
the
it.
like the island of or the I wanted to live in nowhere because at least I knew there was a way to defeat
So
everything.
do you think they're dead? Is nowhere like dead
Like
place?
everyone talks about them being dead. I just thought it was just like
It's
weird
nowhere.
old people in like a liminal
Yeah, yeah,
state,
yeah.
like a weird like always thought of it as like another dimension, like another version of
Yes.
reality to
Okay.
me personally. So,
It's
but yeah,
yeah. It's so bizarre. Who wrote
those.
Waiting for Godot? Um,
Oh God, the man, the Sam one, Samuel something.
uh,
That's Sam Beckett.
Samuel
Sam
Beckett.
Beckett.
It's giving
Sam
me like
Beckett.
Samuel Beckett for kids. Just like a little bit.
Honestly, kind of a little bit.
Cute.
Um, I mean, everyone knows the iconic episodes of the cat, the guy who does the haircuts, like the scary episodes. So
I
don't
was under the
worry, I still
impression it
love
was like
those. But
too young for me, but it super wasn't. I just like missed it somehow.
yeah, it's it's on HBO Max. If anyone wants to try to watch some old episodes, they're all on
How
HBO
dare
Max.
you?
If you want to watch it. So,
You know we don't have that in Canada.
oh well, get better,
We have
Canada.
Crave though. It has some of the same stuff.
Do you have Walmarts?
What?
Do you have
Oh,
Walmart? Go
well,
find it in the
I don't
bin.
think they have.
Oh yeah, we do have Walmart now.
That was years and years
I was like,
ago,
Walmart has a
though.
streaming channel?
I
Oh
I can
God.
confirm Walmart still carries it because I have it's $20 for the whole series on DVD. I bought it like 4 months ago.
Courage,
Mhm.
Cowardly
Oh.
Dog. Let's see where it's playing in Canada, just for everyone at home. I almost hit just right, not just watch. Do you guys ever eat just right the cereal? It's disgusting.
I don't even know what that is.
Uh, it is not really available to stream here. You have to have something
Oh,
called Stack TV. You know I
well,
don't.
one day you'll experience the joy of Courage the Cowardly Dog.
Cool. I like the grandma. She looks cool.
Muriel, she's a
Icon.
queen,
Yeah.
icon. Love the episode where she becomes Tiny Muriel and asks for macaroni and cheese, and he can't make the macaroni and cheese the right way.
Oh, she's
Um,
she's a BBW. I like her.
she is. She very
Hmm.
much is. She's what I want to be when I grow up, I think. But yeah, so
Well,
that's my version of the Pink Opaque is Courage the Cowardly Dog, especially the episode The Hunchback from Nowhere.
that's really beautiful. Thank you, Mary Booth. And like, what a cool way to celebrate Pride Month with the three of us. I had so much
Me
fun.
too. Me too.
Me
It's cool
too.
to talk about this kind of stuff and just talk about it more because I know that queerness is more in the zeitgeist, especially with horror, but we need so much more. So, and everyone let us know on social media in the comments below, what is your Pink Opaque? I want to hear everyone's version of the Pink Opaque. It doesn't have to be from the 90s. Like, what show was your thing that made you feel seen and heard and maybe you liked it maybe too much? So just let us know. We'd love to hear it. And thanks everyone for tuning in and happy Pride. Happy fucking Pride.